Morning, everybody. My name is Natalina Montero. I am the co-chair of the FACCC BIPOC Committee, and I was a member of the FACCC board since 2014. I teach political science at East Los Angeles College, and I want to welcome you to Reclaiming Student Success, AB 1705, in the context of minority students. We are the FACCC Black, Indigenous, and Peoples of Color Committee. I want to start with the land acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge that we occupied the land that belonged to the Native Americans. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on the land and to seek to understand our place within that history. We acknowledge and honor the ancestors who died violently in this land due to settler colonialism. We acknowledge the present, and as the stewards of the land, we are mindful of the future we are built here. I want to say that this land acknowledgement does not free us from our duties to the Native American tribes. I want to give a shout out to Kelly Velasquez, my co-chair, professor at East Los Angeles College, Francis Howard, librarian at Peralta Community College, Rocio Diaz, a counselor at El Camino College, Dr. Tomas Carrasco, Santa Barbara City College, Chicano Studies, Nikki Gonzalez-Yuen, professor of political science at De Anza College, Ruby Christian Brown, professor of psychology and statistics at Los Angeles Valley College, Dr. Angela Wilson, former Phil professor at Rio Hondo College, Tuck Haimite at San Jacinto College, professor of psychology, Robin Daniel, film department at Santa Monica College, and these three great members who were instrumental in helping us founding the BIPOC Committee. Dean Murakami, who you guys know is no longer with us, may he rest in peace. Tim Dave, that left us to go to Texas as he retired, and our past president, Dr. Debbie Klein at Galvin College Anthropology. First and foremost, we're gonna hear from our new re-elected FACCC president, Wendy Brill Weinkoop, and Dr. Tomas Carrasco is our moderator. We have Daniel Judge, Math Professor at East Los Angeles College, Dr. Angela Echeverri, President of the Los Angeles Community College District Academic Senate, and Chemistry Professor at Los Angeles Mission College, Oranit Limmaneeprasert, FACCC board member and ESL faculty at American River College, and Paula Munoz, EOPS director at Ventura College. Wendy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Natalina. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our FACCC event on AB 1705 and a unique perspective. And I want to thank all the members of our BIPOC committee and all our panelists for taking the time today to have a conversation about something as important as this. I think it's really, we have to acknowledge that democracy involves debate and conversation and trying to get to the best possible solution by having different opinions and looking at data and trying to figure out what we should do to make sure our students have the most successful path forward. And we don't always agree, and that is healthy to not agree. I wanted to very quickly present FACCC's position because often things get conflated. And AB 705 was a bill from 2017, and FACCC had no position on that bill. We have amazing members of our organization who fully support that bill, and we have members of our organization who do not support that bill. But the organization did not have a position on AB 705. And I think all of us as faculty agree that it's important to do what we can do to make sure that students can get through their college education to reach whatever their goals are as quickly as possible and within the time that is that they have to be able to reach those goals. So reducing those remedial pathways is something that I think has been helpful to many students. And then in addition, AB 705 really did help expand curriculum. Many colleges added stats pathways or liberal arts and math. So it did other things other than reducing remedial pathways. It created new pathways for students. But with AB 705, it is billed as cleanup language. And so we do have to talk about both bills as we move forward. And we as an organization want to acknowledge that it's not perfect and it's not working for all students. So this is an opportunity, if we are cleaning up AB 705 with AB 1705, that we make sure that all parties are listened to, and that we make sure that we create the best bill for the most students, right? All students if possible. So here is FACCC's position. We have an opposed position on 1705. One of the reasons we have an opposed position is we've been talking to Irwin's office since November, and we have concerns. We want to make sure that we have more support for faculty to do this work. We want to make sure we're collecting the correct data. We want to also make sure that we preserve access to curriculum that students will need. And we feel this bill is overly prescriptive in the fact that it is going to legislate, put into law things that would probably don't belong in law and would be difficult to change in the future. So after talking to Irwin's office for several months and having conversations, we were told that our amendments wouldn't be considered. This was in March, and that the amendments would not, our amendments would not be heard or included. And at that point, we had to, as an organization, take a position of opposed. So again, I just wanted to clarify that as an organization, making sure that students can be successful is something that we support. And really, it's the details that we're concerned about to make sure that we're preserving curriculum and allowing faculty to have purview over curriculum in a way that we have concerns about this bill that will prevent that from happening. So that's our position of opposed. The last thing I want to say very quickly is that we have an amazing panel. Again, thank you guys. It's just like superstars. And we've asked our participants to be here. They're going to present their own opinions. They might not always align directly with FACC, but we've brought this space and created this space to have this conversation because it's important, and we support this rich conversation. So again, we do have a position of opposed on 1705, didn't oppose 705, and look forward to working with the author to try and make 1705 better for our students. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Wendy. I know I forgot one more person. I'm gonna do it and then I'll do it later. And Golden Shear, a former student at East Los Angeles College, a graduate from UCLA. Tomas, it's your turn.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Dr. Tomas Arbla Carrasco. I'm the chair of American Ethnic Studies at Santa Barbara City College, and I have a PhD in Chicano Studies. So I say that because I'm going to present to you an ethnic studies lens, a Chicano Studies lens. I'm excited about this panel. Again, Wendy, I want to echo you in regards to a dialogue, right? This is a dialogue. The communities of Santa Barbara City College are in crisis. We have hundreds of students that are failing English and math on a systematic level. And so this is very, very hard to live through, especially on top of that with the pandemic, right? On who's been affected by the pandemic. That's which is I wanted to add. But as a Chicano Studies professor and as a moderator, I just wanted to give some concepts. So again, we're in an academic setting. So I just wanted to give some concepts and some definitions. So racism is a system of oppression. It is when one group excludes another group from healthcare, housing, education, and capital. So hopefully we could, systematic, just put that in the back of your mind. The other concept that I wanted to introduce is neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is the first instance, a theory of political economic practices that proposes that human well-being can be best advanced by liberating individual entrepreneurial freedoms and skills within an institutional framework characterized by strong private property rights, free market, and free trade. The role of the state is to create and preserve an institutional framework appropriated to such practices. That's David Harvey. The reason why I bring up neoliberalism is because some could argue that we are living in a neoliberal era. And in a nutshell, the vernacular, neoliberalism is pretty much the privatization of healthcare, pretty much everything, right? And so education is one of the last, areas that they wanted to privatize, right? And so again, if you could put that in the back of your mind. And then the other concept is hegemony. Hegemony is when the elites convince the masses that the elites' interests are the masses' interests. Hegemony, when the elites convince the masses that the elites' interests are the masses' interests. And this is done through coercion and consent. Antonio Gramsci. And then the last concept I just want us to all think about is the concept of equity, right? So again, we're talking about AB 1705, Student Success Act, Access and Success, right? So a foundational concept that there's so many different definitions of equity, right? But just, fairness, justice, access to the same resources, right? Something to think about. And with that, I want to introduce our first speaker, which is a person that has developed, just real quick, in 1968, 91% of all college students were white, right? And so it was due to civil rights, Black Power movement, Chicano Power movement, Native American movement, Asian American movement, that we opened up access to aggrieved populations. And Paula Munoz was at the forefront, student of Rudy Acuña, that developed EOPS, one of the best EOPS departments in the nation. And with that, we have Paula Munoz. Paula?
Thank you, Tomas. Let me, I'm not going to introduce myself further. I think Tomas covered it. We only have a few minutes. Let me just attempt to contextualize AB 1705 by providing some background and history, and of course, my opinion. In April of 2017, the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, led by Chancellor Eloy Oakley, and with the support of the Foundation of California Community Colleges, held a virtual town hall to solicit input from the public. The Foundation of California Community Colleges was made up of billionaires, Bill and Melinda Gates, the James Irwin Foundation, the College Futures Foundation, and other similar foundations. The input was to be part of an effort to develop a long-term ambitious vision from the California Community Colleges. It would be a strategic vision for the California Community Colleges. It would articulate clear goals for the system and provide provide recommendations on how to accomplish those goals over the next 5 years. The foundation of the California Community Colleges was made up of very wealthy conservatives, as you probably have deduced by now. This system had already produced failed initiatives, such as the Student Success Initiative. This college system declared that students were taking too long to transfer, taking too long to select a major, and taking too many units. A crisis was therefore declared. Well, not all students want to transfer, and did you all know what your major is going to be in your first year, or even maybe your second year? And Eloy Oakley, our chancellor, did not know his major in his first year either. So the crisis solution was AB 705, authored by Assembly Person Jackie Irwin, who resides, by the way, in my district, Ventura County. Now, I believe, in my opinion, the chancellor's office wrote AB 705, and she was asked to author it. The rationale for AB 705 was that students, especially our students of color, have a better chance of succeeding. The intentions to remove barriers and close achievement gaps. The intention was to remove barriers and close achievement gaps. Students were underplaced, they claimed, in developmental remedial courses, resulting in too few students finishing transfer level English and math courses. The chancellor's office further claimed that virtually every student group was more likely to successfully complete transfer level courses when placed directly into transfer level courses, with hopefully support programs and or courses. Now, the new community college focus was transfer degrees and certificates. Well, what about community needs, ESL population needs? What about courses that do not fit into transfer degree or certificate plans? It was all a new vision. The college got pathways. Students were likely to graduate on time if they identified a major early on, had a clear outline of their courses required for completion, and were provided ongoing guidance and support. By the way, my college, Ventura College, and Santa Rosa College were the last holdouts in signing off on pathways. We held it up in our academic senates. The word flexibility was used throughout the new vision statements. Flexibility is the word of the day. Flexibility is exercised by the Chancellor's office. Flexibility comes down to no accountability in the community college system. There has been no accountability for the millions of taxpayer dollars on the California Community Colleges initiatives. There have been no real reporting out on the outcomes of 3SP equity or C funds. We now have a system of no play, no pay. It is called a student-centered funding formula, a business corporate agenda for a public college system. Colleges will get funds for the number of degrees, certificates, and then the transfers they produce. It is education by the business world for the business world. What has been the impact on BIPOC students? Many are shut out. They cannot complete transfer level in math and English courses in their first year. They may not be able to enroll in 15 semester units because of work demands and other demands. I was asked by LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, to present on AB 705. I did. Jackie Irwin made sure her staff was present. I made sure the staff person could see me and hear me clearly. It was a good turnout, good questions. LULAC got it. LULAC followed up by inviting Jackie Irwin to meet with them as a follow-up to my presentation. She agreed, but asked the Ventura County Community College's chancellor to attend with her. He was not able to attend and sent the 3 district college presidents instead. I was not present at that meeting, but it was reported that the invitees left not very happy. A result was that LULAC was then asked me to assist them in writing a resolution against AB 705. And they took that resolution to the state convention and got it passed as a state resolution. Here are a few sentences from that resolution that I will leave out the whereases. This is from LULAC resolution. Many of our Latino and education disadvantaged students arrive at the community colleges underprepared for transfer level English and math. And these students are in danger of not succeeding in math and English, dropping out, not being reported as dropouts. And the college outcome data will then reflect success. And this bill has the unintended and possibly the intended consequences of hurting rather than helping students of color who have historically suffered from the income inequality, who will have more difficulties transferring to 4-year colleges, enroll full time, and are academically prepared to transfer level math and English courses. And AB 705 was not developed nor pursued in the democratic spirit of transparency, debate, inclusiveness. Rather, it was legislation that forced many in the community colleges sphere to get on board or face political consequences. And Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin, who represents Ventura County, which includes LULAC District 17, did not allow nor meet with LULAC and give them the opportunity to meet with her to further discuss in detail the legitimate and concrete concerns that we had with AB 705. The Ventura College District Board made it clear that all of the community colleges in the county had no choice but to support AB 705 or suffer political consequences. Therefore, be it resolved that because elements of AB 705 can and will result in institutional racism, that LULAC's history reflects it has always opposed this, and state LULAC organization opposes AB 705. So this is a David and Goliath struggle. Some English faculty at my campus believe this is a no college student left behind. They maintain that the history of basic skills is rooted in equity. They maintain that mastering of writing comes with practice, time, and effort. They further believe that the need for research should be based on the causes, not ideology. The research that directs itself as to the why we get the results we do, not just the data concerning transfer rates, degrees, and certificates. We could then move to address the policies that would address the true barriers to success. Now, the Chancellor's Office has spent millions to fund and control data results. It has millions for marketing, their vision, and their message. Faculty have not been included in having a say. AB 705 and now AB 1705 is legislation commandeered by the Chancellor's Office and private industry that is determined to call the shots in our community college system. The California Master Plan of 1960 for higher education included language that reads, quote, remedial instruction for those in need of it, end of quote. On the horizon now is an attempt to change this master plan. When I first learned and read about the AB 1705 bill, I thought it was a racist bill. I hope that by the end of today's panel, folks out there listening will commit to speaking up and taking action and keeping the community in our California community college system. Let's not let it become just a California community college system driven by the private business sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula Munoz. I just wanted to add that that was a perfect example of explaining neoliberalism. Thank you, Paula. And one of Paula's areas of expertise is assessment. Paula is one of my mentors. And again, I want to really emphasize that this is about who reading, writing, and math. Who has access to reading, writing, and math in a general sense? That's what we're talking about here. And also, it's very complicated. This is a very, very complicated issue. Like Wendy was saying, there's people that are pro, anti, and it's huge. But most importantly, what Paula was saying is that this is changing the mission of the community college system in regards to anybody should be able to go to the community college system at any level and learn how to read, write, and take math classes. And now they can't. Not at Santa, and I'll be speaking directly in regards to Santa Barbara City College. Thank you so much, Paula. So next, our next speaker is Angela Echeverri. So Angela, take it away.
Thank you, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to speak about AB 705 and AB 1705. I am a STEM faculty member, Latinx faculty member at LA Mission College. I'm also the District Academic Senate President at LACCD, and I've been talking about AB 705 nonstop for 2.5 years because I agree completely with what the intent is here, and the intent is to curtail our mission and to limit who we can serve. So I do want to start out with some slides here. So let me go ahead and try to screen share. And let's see, are you able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, my colleague Daniel Judge is going to talk a lot about math. So before he talks about math, I want to talk a little bit about English, and then I want to talk, about the crisis that is occurring at our colleges. I want to tell the tale of two colleges, and in the context of what's happening with transfer level English. So if we look in our district, we have 9 colleges, and they're all very different. LA Southwest College is a primarily almost exclusively students of color, primarily African-American, but we also have a lot of Hispanic students. LA Pierce is in the Northwest San Fernando Valley, and it has a much more, I guess, higher number of white students, Asian students, and other groups. So if we look at what's happening at LA Southwest College in transfer level English, and this is from the State Chancellor's dashboard, what we see, and I also want to mention that this data is pretty much pre-pandemic. So everything we're looking at here, they haven't posted anything after the spring of 2020, when we were hit by the pandemic. So we don't know what's happened, post-pandemic. We have very limited data, but the data that we do have is really staggering. So if we look at success in transfer level English courses, and basically I picked LA Southwest College English and looked at one term, time frame to completion, starting at transfer level college for fall only, because that's the only semester that we have pre-pandemic. And what we see here is that at LA Southwest College, the success rates for English dropped from 59% to 37% from before versus after AB 705 implementation. And you can see over here in the ethnic disaggregation that both African American and Hispanic students, dropped significantly. What this actually translates to is, yes, we did get some more students through, so our, the throughput that everybody talks about increased. We had 136 additional successful completions, but the flip side of that is that we had 357 additional failures. And so for every success, we had 2.6 additional failures. And that's what no one is talking about. So everybody's focusing on, oh yes, we got more through, but we're not talking about, what's happening to the students who failed. And again, this is pre-pandemic. I think that we can all agree that the pandemic has had a huge disproportionate impact on students of color. Now, if we compare that to what's going on at Pierce College, which has a different demographic, you can see here that, let me just go to Pierce. We had a decline in course success rates, but it wasn't as dramatic as what we saw at LA Southwest. We had, again, about 755 additional successful completions and 541 additional failures. So the ratio here is much better than what we saw at Southwest College. So for every success, you had about 0.7 additional failures. But what you want to notice here is that we have growing equity gaps, in particular for Hispanic students. And when we disaggregate this data into detailed ethnicity, what we found was that the students that were hit the hardest were Mexican American students and Central American students. So again, these are growing equity gaps that nobody is talking about. Now, my colleague, Daniel Judge, is going to tell you, he's going to do a deep dive into math, but I did want to just put the English part here as well, because this is a big part of the story. And again, this is State Chancellor's dashboard data. This is not data that I'm making up. It's available. You can click on the link if you want to look at how your college is doing. So the use of one-year throughput rate as the sole metric for AB 705 implementation is very problematic, because as we see in the previous slides, we're also having lower success rates in those courses, growing equity gaps for students of color. The fact that most community college students attend part-time makes it very difficult for them to complete both math and English in a one-year framework, a one-year timeline. And we're completely ignoring the effect of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the disruption and the learning loss that has occurred, and the disproportionate impact of that learning loss and disruption on students of color. We also need to keep in mind that attrition from one term to the next is significant in most community colleges, and that the student drops before census are not included in this data. So the metric itself is problematic, and it frames the narrative in such a way that it makes it very difficult for us to justify offering free transfer level courses, because we're not looking at success rates. We're just looking at throughput, as if we were factories. Now, one question is, well, what happens to students who are unsuccessful in these transfer level courses? And first of all, they are going to have substandard grades in their transfer level courses. That's going to affect their ability to transfer, because it's going to impact their transfer GPA. And preliminary evidence, at least in our district, LACCD, our 9 colleges, suggests that many of these unsuccessful students simply drop out of college and do not return. So they're not coming back. They're going to attempt maybe once, maybe twice, they fail, and then they just go away, and we don't really know. They might probably join the workforce, or but they don't seem to persist, and we can't retain them. So I want to talk a little bit about AB 1705 and its unprecedented intrusion into curriculum. And in particular, I want to highlight a few things that came in the latest amendments to AB 1705, including the impact on STEM programs. So for STEM programs, they actually are now trying to limit the number of transfer level courses in the calculus preparatory sequence. Many STEM majors have 3 course sequences like algebra, trigonometry, statistics. And they're trying to limit now how many transfer level courses we can offer. And not only that, but if we have to verify the benefit of the preparatory sequence using their metrics. Who is this going to impact? This is going to impact students of color, because students of color are going to have to go into these calculus courses for which they may or may not have had the best preparation in their high schools. Also, CTE programs. For the CTE programs, AB 1705 is going to limit the ability to offer pre-transfer level courses. If we offer them, we have to meet several conditions. First of all, they must be required by an external agency, and they can't be satisfied by transfer level coursework. And then finally, there are also restrictions on non-credit programs. So, again, this is not me. This is the language of the bill. So I just put it in here and highlighted the problematic, language. But basically what it says is that we can offer no more than 2 transfer level courses to prepare students for their first STEM calculus course. Who is this going to impact? This is going to impact primarily students who are coming from underperforming schools. And we know who that is. And then if you can't verify the benefit of the coursework, then you have to, you can't recommend or require them to take this after July 1st. Again, many STEM majors include a 3 transfer level course sequence before calculus. This is direct intrusion into our curriculum. For CTE programs, again, this is straight from the bill. These are the amendments that were—
Angela, real quick, what are CTE programs? Could you say
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, career technical education.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
The workforce training. A lot of students who go into these CTE programs have been out of school for several years. A lot of them are veterans. Maybe they've been in the workplace, they come back, and they may benefit from some pre-transfer level instruction. AB 1705 restricts our ability to offer these courses. They have to be dictated by a program's advisory or accrediting body, and they cannot be satisfied with transfer level coursework. So if, again, it's not required by an external body, or if there is a transfer level course that satisfies the requirement, we can't offer it. Let me give you an example. At LA Mission College, we have a land surveyor program. A lot of veterans go into this program. It's a CTE program, and it has some trigonometry content. So there's a trigonometry course. The math faculty at Mission want to develop a 1-unit trig course that would be pre-transfer. It's not transfer level, but it would be tailored to the needs of this program. Well, with this language, we could not offer that course because it could be satisfied with trigonometry. So again, these restrictions are really limiting our ability to develop these programs and serve our students. Finally, on non-credit programs, you can see here that there's also language restricting our ability to use non-credit coursework to circumvent placement and enrollment of students into transfer level coursework. So again, this is not just math and English, this is STEM, this is CTE, this is non-credit, and this is completely ignoring the effect of the pandemic on our students. And we haven't done a great job at trying to assess the amount of learning loss that our students have experienced. But the K-12 system has looked at this. And this is a study from LA Unified School District looking at learning loss from the pandemic. We know that the rates of absenteeism were extremely high, especially in communities of color, people who were unhoused, living in poverty. They didn't have access to computers and internet, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, a safe place to study. And they looked at the percentage of students who were at grade level, in the fall of 2020. And what they found was that foster students, homeless students, students with disabilities, English learners, as well as students of colors had very, very low levels of grade level readiness in reading and math. And I really encourage you to look at the study. And they basically conclude that we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis because these students have lost months of education. And as a parent of 2 teenage boys, I can tell you that that is absolutely true. The last 2 years have been absolutely incredibly challenging for us. So we're ignoring this. Now, if you look at enrollment in our district since AB 705 went into effect, we've lost about 28% of our enrollment. You know, I anticipate that if AB 1705 goes into effect, we'll probably lose another 28% easily. So who benefits? I think, you know, when we look at this legislation, we have to start thinking, well, who is benefiting from this? Who is benefiting by limiting the students served by community colleges? And, you know, I could think of a few people. When I read this bill, like who in their right mind would think of something like this? Well, if I were a student loan company, you know, might be good business to limit who community colleges serve. If I were a private school, that might be, you know, in my advantage. And if I were an employer who needed unskilled low-wage earners, I might benefit as well. So I think we need to start thinking about who's benefiting and where is the money coming from to fund these initiatives. So I encourage, and we encourage you to look at this bill really carefully and oppose it unless amended. Because number one, we have to preserve the mission of community colleges. And I think this is the greatest existential threat to our mission in our lifetimes. We have to protect students' choice and agency to take pre-transfer level courses. We need to replace this metric, 1-year throughput rate, as a sole metric. We should be using multiple metrics to evaluate outcomes. So course success rates, equity gaps, look at the number of units taken instead of 1 year, and maximize the probability of success for each individual student. Also, we have to address the COVID-19 pandemic, the learning loss, and provide curricular options and support to meet students' needs, not take them away at this time, and protect the integrity of our programs, STEM, CTE, and non-credit. Finally, we have to serve all students and prevent learning loss. This is really an unprecedented time for us as faculty leaders. So with that, I would like to, I'm really excited to introduce my colleague, Daniel.
So Angela,
Yes.
Before you do that, I just want to add something that I just want to really amplify what you just said. I just want to say that thank you for all those facts, right? You know, in regards to data and to facts, because again, you know, Paula and we're talking about this David and Goliath kind of a situation, but I just wanted to tell our audience that, you know, what Angela presented was a perfect example of hegemony, right? And I love the concept where you said, who is benefiting from this, right? And if you look at one of my goals as the moderator of this panel is I wanted to give overarching concepts. And the concepts that you're presenting to us is that we really need to amplify is that the California community college system has been one of the best public educational systems in the nation in regards to helping aggrieved populations, right? And I really want to emphasize your concept of changing, this is changing the mission statement of the California community college system in a very, very sophisticated, you know, people don't want to use the word racist way, but it is excluding aggrieved populations from higher education on a massive, massive level. And I really, and what I really want to also to emphasize is a concept of high school diplomas, right? And I want to state, not all high school diplomas are created equal, right? And as a Chicano studies professor, I get these students from the exact same high school that have high school diplomas, and some students, we know who they are, can write really, really well, and other students need work on their writing, right? So again, that's that connection I wanted to make. And you made a really, really good point, where most of our programming across the state is for full-time students, and most of our students are part-time. So we need to update our programs to shift to be student focused on the part-time student. And a lot of it is due to economics, right? So thank you, Angela. So go for it. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. It's a pleasure to introduce my colleague, Daniel Judge. Daniel is the chair of the Math Council at LA Community College Districts, and he's going to give us a deep dive now into mathematics and what's happening with mathematics. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Daniel take it away.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Angela, for your hard work and your leadership. It's been very inspirational to me. And so I want to thank everybody as well here for allowing me to present this information to you. I've been, talking about these numbers for quite some time. I've been looking at this issue. So it's very important to me, and I'll express to you why that is. I've been teaching mathematics at East Los Angeles College for around 23 years now, and have been teaching in East Los Angeles for 27 years. I currently serve as the chair of the LACCD District Math Council, and I am the grandson of Arturo S. Almanza, a local Mexican-American civil rights leader in the Los Angeles area during the civil rights movement. I'm also a former student of Jaime Escalante from 1988 to 1990, where he actually taught at East Los Angeles College at night. I was an evening student. I was an ELAC student for 4 years before I transferred. I didn't know what I was going to major in until 3.5 years. I only majored in math because Jaime Escalante said I should do so. He said, "You're good enough." I never believed I was good enough. I would not be here today if AB 1705 was in place in 1986 when I started at East Los Angeles College. I would have opted not to attend. I started in remedial math and English courses. I started in geometry, later took intermediate algebra, and I know for certain I wouldn't be here. And this is something I say to my students as a consequence. It's not where you start, it's where you end. I've been saying this for 27 years. I want to start this presentation by introducing to you all something I teach in my statistics courses. I teach the Titanic mortality table. And most people think that everybody died in the Titanic, but that's simply not the case. 706 people survived the Titanic, and about 1,517 people died. So what I teach in my statistics courses is what's called a unit ratio, to get an idea of how we want to relate this ratio. And so I'm going to use this as the premise of this presentation, that for every one survivor, and down in blue, you have about 2.1 survivors. Okay, for every one survivor on the Titanic, you have about 2.1 non-survivors. This is a slide that I've been posting on social media. I've been posting this information there. So I want you to remember this ratio. What I looked at is what we can expect with AB 1705. When you visit the Chancellor's dashboard, you select Add Transfer with fall only, and this data does not include drops before census. This data represents the best prepared students under AB 705 and the multiple measure format. Okay, fall 2018 was the last term, what I label pre-AB 705. That's the last term under the old placement system and the particular sequence that students were required to follow. Fall 2019 was the first term under AB 705. And like Angela pointed out, that was all non-COVID data. So this is a snapshot of what we can expect. Okay, that's the only data we have And that comes from the Chancellor's dashboard. So I want to share with you some information about LA Harbor College. If you can look over here in green, this is all pre-AB 705. And the cohort size, again, those are the best prepared under multiple measures. So you can see at that time, we had 17 African-American students take a transfer level math course for a 65% success rate. That means 11 got through, that's the throughput, and 6 did not get through. The unit ratio is 1 success to about 0.545 or 0.6 non-successes. This is all in green, the information for what I describe as pre-AB 705. Now, 236 Hispanic students at a 62% rate, throughput of 147, complement those who did not get through 89. So in green, you can see there's a degree of what we call efficiency. Now, when we open the door for AB 705 in fall 2019, yes, take a look at the cohort size. You went from 383 to 857. What that means is AB 705 gave access to 474 additional students. It gave access to 60 African-American students got access, and 260 Hispanic students got access. So we like that. We like that people got access. And if you look at the throughput numbers, due to that access, there was an additional 14 African-American students that got through here. There was an additional 68 Hispanic students that got through here. This is the throughput. This is what the people who are for AB 705 and AB 705 are saying, hey, we did good. But what I like to point out is the people that did not get through, the unsuccessful completions. And this is the additional people who did not get through. For African Americans, 46 did not get through. And the unit ratio is 3.3 approximately, meaning for every additional African American who got through, 3.3 additional did not get through. For Hispanics, access of 260, 68 got through. This is additional. There was an additional 192 who did not get through. And again, we rectify these numbers by looking at the unit ratio. For every additional Hispanic student that got through, I apologize, 2.8 did not get through. So what I do here now is I essentially summarize this data. This is what I just went through. 192 additional Hispanic students did not get through. Now I want to emphasize these were the best prepared Hispanic students under the multiple measures of AB 705, meaning courses taken in high school GPA, multiple measures. 2.8 non-survivors, 2.8 non-successes for every 1 success. This is all additional. And this is at LA Harbor with math. African-American students, again, 60 additional students got access, 14 additional students got through at that transfer level, 46 additional African-American students did not get through. The best prepared under multiple measures of AB 705. Unit ratio, for every 1 additional success, there was 3.3 additional non-successes for African-American students. And this is at LA Harbor. So as we scroll through and take a look at this, this is something that we also want to take note of, that AB 705 entering at transfer, not counting those who have dropped before census, best prepared, we see declining success rates and increased equity gaps. Declining success rates, increased equity gaps. LA Mission College. This is kind of an interesting scenario because if we look at the access number of 196 additional students, yes, that's 6 additional African-American students. That's 176 Hispanic students that got access due to AB 705. What you see now here is actually a deficit among African-American students of -5. What that means is, if we look at the unit ratio, 11 additional African-American students did not get through. You need about 5 students to have a unit ratio of 1 to 11, and we'll see that in the next slide. For Hispanic students, 176 got access, 11 additional Hispanic students got through, 165 did not get through. That's a unit ratio of, for one additional success, we have 15 additional non-successes. Again, this is a summary of what I just went through for Hispanic students amongst the best prepared. 165 additional students did not get through. For one additional success, 15 additional non-successes at LA Mission amongst Hispanic students. African-American students, for the 6 additional that got through, we have a deficit of 5. 11 did not get through amongst the best prepared on multiple measures. What I'm saying here is, if we even gave, the proponents of AB 705 or the people who support AB 705 and AB 1705, that 5 extra African-American students, the ratio will be 1 additional success to 11 additional non-successions. This is why I put the word assumption here. It just gives you an idea of what we're talking about. And this is amongst African-American students. 1 additional success to 11 additional non-successes. Mission College. You will see here, again, declining success rates and increased equity gaps amongst the best prepared students. LACD College. 32 additional African-American students got access. That was great. 1 additional student got through. 31 additional African-American students did not get through. You're going to see the unit ratio to be 1 to 31. Hispanic students at LACD College, 555 additional students were granted access. 105 got through. This is the at transfer level, 105 additional. This is the throughput. This is the number that people keep saying, the supporters of AB 705 and AB 1705 will tell you we got 105 more students through. They're not going to talk about the 450 that did not get through. The unit ratio is 1 to 4.3 approximately. So when you go back and summarize the Hispanic students, the information that's here, this is what I went through. For 1 additional success, there was 4.3 additional non-successes for Hispanic students at LACD. This is the information I went through regarding African-American students amongst the best prepared. For every 1 success, 31 non-successes at LACD College amongst the African-American students, the best prepared. We see again, declining success rates, increased equity gaps. West LA College, 60 additional African-American students were granted access. 14 got through. 446 did not get through. The unit ratio is 1 to 3.3. For Hispanic students, 138 were granted access, 31 got through, 107 did not get through. So for every 1 additional Hispanic student that got through, 3.4 did not get through. I am summarizing what I've just said here in this slide. Remember, 107 additional Hispanic students did not get through. Those are amongst the best prepared. For every additional success, 3.5 additional non-successes amongst the best prepared Hispanic students at West LA. This is the African-American students again. This is what I went through. 46 additional African-American students did not get through. This is amongst the best prepared. For every 1 success amongst African-American students, 3.3 did not get through. What you are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially that you're more likely to survive the Titanic than to survive these courses at our colleges for students of color. That's the purpose of the ratio of 1 to 2.1. You have something to compare. What we see is declining success rates here again and increased equity gaps. LA Valley College, LA Valley. The access for African-American students was 23. 23 additional students who were African-American were going to take at transfer amongst the best prepared African-American students under multiple measures. 12 additional students got through. That's our throughput. 11 did not. And as you can see, this is the first time that we have somewhat of a more efficient ratio. That's for every additional student that got through, 0.9 did not get through. This is at LA Valley. If we look at Hispanic students, 320 additional Hispanic students got access. 81 got through. 239 did not get through. The unit ratio is 1 to about 3. I'm summarizing what I just said here in this slide. Remember, 239 additional Hispanic students did not get through amongst the best prepared. 1 additional success to 3 non-successes at LA Valley for Hispanic students. What you see here, again, is declining success rates and increased equity gaps. LA Southwest. Amongst the African-American students, the best prepared, 118 were granted access, 41 got through. 77 did not get through. The unit ratio is 1 to about 1.9. Hispanic students granted access, 274 additional students, 81 got through the throughput, 193 did not get through. That's a unit ratio of 1 to 2.3. This is again the summary of what's occurred at LA Southwest College for Hispanic students. 193 additional did not get through amongst the best prepared on AB 705 and multiple measures. For every additional success, 2.5 additional non-successes. African-American students, 77 additional did not get through amongst the best prepared with AB 705. For every additional success, there's 1.9 additional non-successes at LA Southwest amongst African-American students, the best prepared. What you see here is declining success rates and increased equity gaps amongst LA Southwest College students in mathematics. LA Trade Tech. 15 additional African Americans were granted access, in which 1 got through. That's the throughput. 14 additional did not get through, for a unit ratio of 1 to 14. For Hispanic students, 47 were granted access, additional students, in which 16 got through. 31 did not get through. The unit ratio here is 1 to 1.9. This is at LA Trade Tech. So amongst Hispanic students, the best prepared under AB 705 for at transfer, we had 16 additional Hispanic students did not get through. Unit ratio 1 to 1.9 amongst Hispanic students. Amongst African-American students, for every additional success, there was 14 additional non-successes amongst the best prepared African-American students under multiple measures. 1 to 14 at LA Trade Tech for African-American students. Remember the survival rate of the Titanic. It is 1 to 2.1. Again, you see declining success rates and actually increased equity gaps really amongst 2 groups, but you can't compare it necessarily with Asian and white students because there's no data for those students here for LA Trade Tech College. East Los Angeles College. This is my college. There was no net gain for access for African American students from 2018 to 2019, but there was 4 additional successes, and there was a decline in actually, unsuccessful attempts. So this kind of unit ratio does not make any sense unless we start to make more assumptions here. But amongst Hispanic students, 539 additional Hispanic students were granted access, in which 116 got through. That's the throughput. What's never discussed is the complement of the throughput, which is 423 additional Hispanic students did not get through. That's a unit ratio of 1 to 3.6. I summarize what I mentioned here about the Hispanic students. 423 additional Hispanic students did not get through. This was amongst the best prepared Hispanic students under AB 705, and again, does not include drops before census. The survival rate is 1 additional success to 3.6 additional non-successes amongst Hispanic students at East Los Angeles College. We see again declining success rates with the exception of African Americans in this instance, but you do see increased equity gaps amongst white and Hispanic students. LA Pierce College, mathematics. 53 additional African Americans were granted access, in which 13 got through. 40 did not get through. The unit ratio is about 1 to 3.1, and this is amongst African American students at Pierce College. There were 611 additional students who were allowed to take at transfer the best prepared Hispanic students. We see 184 additional Hispanic students get through, but 427 additional Hispanics did not get through. That unit ratio is 1 to 2.3. At LA Pierce College, for Hispanic students amongst the best prepared, they had 427 additional students that did not get through. This is the information I went over. For every additional success, there was 2.3 additional non-successes at LA Pierce College amongst Hispanic students. You're still more likely to survive the Titanic than you are to survive mathematics at LA Pierce under AB 705. A glimpse of what we can see for AB 1705. This is the information I just talked about and summarized here for African American students. The 13 additional African American students had 40 additional African American students that did not get through under AB 705. These are the best prepared under AB 705 and multiple measures. For every additional African American who got through, 3 additional did not get through. This is at LA Pierce. What you see here at LA Pierce yet again is declining success rates and increased equity gaps. So what can we conclude about AB 1705? This presentation assumed the best prepared. This does not even include drops before census. Learning loss will greatly compound the ratios with decreased student success and increased equity gaps. AB 1705 will eliminate pre-transfer math and English courses, which will impact our ability to serve lifelong learners, veterans, and disabled students. I'm going to end here for the most part with a quote from Jaime Escalante. One of the greatest things in life is that no one has the authority to tell you what you want to be. You're the one who'll decide what you want to be. Now, thinking about this last night, in all honesty, it's interesting as his former student. And the only reason I'm here is because he told me to major in math. I think what he's saying here is to give students choice, because that last sentence, you're the one who will decide what you want to be. And if that choice is taken away from you, you are no longer in the position to decide. And that's, in my opinion, he's speaking now. And then finally, this presentation is dedicated to my students, my mentor, Jaime Escalante, and my grandfather, Arturo S. Almanza. And this is what I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Can
That
I
was
say
amazing.
something quickly? For those of you that don't know who Jaime Escalante is, watch the movie Stand and Deliver. Stand and Deliver. It's a powerful movie. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Thomas.
That's okay. No. You know, before this talk, Daniel, I was trying to, there's just a lot of power in metaphors, right? And thank you for that metaphor. Major concept, declining success and increased equity gaps, right? And I love how you substantiate your claims through facts. But I really want to add to your talk is we're dealing with human beings. These are human beings that are being stopped from progressing in regards, and in every family, there's always that story of, my cousin who couldn't pass the math test to become a teacher, right? So now he drives a truck or what have you, right? So this is about life and death in a lot of situations, and it's really, I love teaching at Santa Barbara City College, and I love the community college system. And this is like Paula Munoz was saying, this is about a fight. This, this is very, very serious what they're doing. And I really appreciate all your hard work. And Angela, I love just amazing presentations, so we'll be able to highlight your major points at the end, but simultaneously, if you could be looking at, there's some good questions in the chat if you guys want to start thinking about addressing that. But our next speaker is Oranit. So there you go, Oranit, go for it. Thank you so much. Oranit.
Thank you, Thomas. So everyone, I really appreciate the presentations that my two colleagues made today. And I would like to tack on to what Daniel said to start with. When Daniel spoke of student choice, I thought of access to courses that will enable underserved students to achieve their goals, whether it's academic, whether it's career, whether it's just to be able to feed their families or to earn living wages or wages that are better than that. So my name is Oranit Limmaneeprasert. I teach ESL at American River College. And I want to tell you a little bit about my background, and then I'll go into what I would like to share with you. I have been teaching languages, and I said languages because I have taught 4 languages for over 30 years, and I have been teaching ESL in community colleges in California for over 21 years. I have also had my training in my educational, in my PhD program is in educational psychology with the focus on assessment and testing and quantitative method. And with that, why did I want you to know that? Because I am not coming from a place where I don't understand numbers. I'm not coming from a place where I have no idea what learning language is like. English is my 6th language. And I can tell you that learning a language does not take 1 year or 3 years. If you want to achieve the college level fluency and proficiency in writing, speaking, listening, and also at the academic level where you may need to write research papers. With that in mind, I would like to talk about what I would like to say today. And I would also like to say that when Daniel said, student choice, I also think about a student, an Asian, a Pacific Islander student, a Tongan student to be exact, who was our student speaker at the Asian Pacific Islander graduation in Los Rios. She said she couldn't go to high school. She took a GED test. She took one class a semester. She never gave up. She was raising 5 children and working full-time. And she took one class each time. She is graduating. I think that's something we need to keep in mind, that students in the community colleges are not the same. They're diverse. ESL students are also very diverse. In my program, we serve about 15 to 1,800 students a semester. Pre-pandemic, we served about 2,000 students a semester. And I would say that our students are very diverse. Of course, those who can finish the English level, college level English in 3 years, we should encourage them to do that. But if they need more time because they have a lot of responsibilities, because they have families who are dealing with wars in Ukraine or in Afghanistan or in Syria, they should be able to complete their education or achieve their dreams in learning English in more years than just 3 years. And again, learning a language to the place where you can be proficient at the college level, I believe takes more than 3 years. That's very different from learning to say hello, goodbye, thank you. Those who speak more than one language, I think, can relate to me. I would also like to say this. Many of our students come from a place where they really, really need us. They really, really need those classes that would enable them to succeed, to achieve their goals. A lot of ESL students have experience from their native countries, have responsibilities, and they may not want to transfer to a college. It's not equitable to tell them, you know, you have to finish everything in 3 years. Beyond 3 years, you're out. That is just not the way we should treat our most vulnerable students. I would also say that another fact that I would like to share with you is the placement of ESL students. AB 1705 continues with AB 705. That is to say, ESL students can be placed with their high school GPAs or their high school records. My colleague, Sydney Rice, pointed out in the Q&A and also by sending a message to me that AB 2121, a piece of K-12 legislation, basically says that high school students can graduate with 90 or fewer units. Now, please keep in mind, many of our younger ESL students arrived here, would be placed in a high school class. They would manage to graduate without being able to read and write. I have had so many of those, and it pains me to see that they cannot do the basic level classes because they were not advised appropriately. They were not given the tools appropriately to succeed. They would have a lot of trouble understanding what they read and what they write. And again, both legislation, AB 1705 and AB 705, said that they can be placed with their high school GPA into college level classes. That is setting students up for failure. That is not equitable. We need to be able to say, they should be able to say, if they need a class that would enable them to achieve their goals, they should be able to take them. They should not be limited to just the college track, transfer level classes. Another issue that came up is in my district, despite AB 1705 still not being signed into law, beginning this fall, Los Rios will no longer offer pre-college level, pre-transfer level math classes. Now that does not just affect native speakers, that affects ESL students as well. Many students, would like to work on their goals and take one or two, well, usually one math classes a semester when they can. Math is not just numbers. With my quantitative background, I can tell you that math has a lot of language, is compounded by a lot of language features, grammar, vocabulary, writing styles, cultural background that requires that a new ESL student would not understand. They need more than what is, prescribed in the bill. 2 years ago, I have to collect my thought because it's very, very upsetting to see that happen to our students. About 2 years ago, our reading department in our district, in all 4 colleges in Los Rios, the reading departments were dismantled, shut down. Because apparently I was told, I don't have a record, I don't have a recording of that, but I was told that at a meeting, the state chancellor, Eli Oakley, wasn't aware that there was such a thing as a reading program. So over a few days, we got a message that said reading departments would no longer exist. We would no longer offer reading classes. How can students succeed if you don't give them the tool? They can succeed, they are capable, but you need to give them the tool. If they need reading classes, give them those classes. But instead, the reading department was dismantled, was shut down about 2 years ago. Our English department, had to also cut down, basically stop offering pre-college English classes 2 years ago. Now it is the math department. ESL department in Los Rios, particularly my college, because we are still offering the lowest level of ESL class, ESL level 20. We were told we no longer can offer that because it would not comply with AB 1705 and AB 705. Well, I would say 1705 at this point, because it would mean that there would be 7 classes and we are not allowed to offer, 7 levels of classes. We're not allowed to do that because that would make it more than 3 years that are allowed for our ESL students. I'm going to conclude with this. Equity is important. Let's do what we preach. What is happening, what has happened with AB 1705, what is coming with AB 1705 is nowhere equitable to our diverse student population, to students of color, to underserved students from other populations, to disabled students, to working adults who are the majority of our students in community colleges. I would agree with some of my colleagues who said that AB 705 and AB 1705 are racist. I will call them racist. Thank you.
All right, Oranit, thank you so much. Do you want to introduce your students at this time, or how do you want to do that? Or
I
not?
would like to, yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that a student, Miriam, I'm not going to say her last name, who is scheduled to be here to speak about how important it is for ESL students to have remedial classes in English and math, and also to have all the classes they need in ESL, is unable to attend. She apparently needs to go to an orientation. She's graduating, and she is at an orientation at her new 4-year college.
Do we have a student? Do we have a student waiting to talk?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Oranit. I'm sorry.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I can introduce, we have one, I think Daniel is going to introduce his student, and I'm going to introduce my former student,
Excellent.
Golden Shear, and she was a student at East Los Angeles College. And like I told you guys in the beginning, she is a graduate from UCLA and planning to go to the master's program soon. So Golden, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story. Or you shut your camera off instead of putting it on.
Yes, thank you. It's been a while since I've done anything on Zoom, so excuse me. Thank you for allowing me to share space and the privilege of being in a room and space with dedicated educators. It's important that we have that dedication and that we have people ready to fight for the needs of their students. From my experience, I would say I'm a product of early parentification, right? So I was pulled away from studies to focus more so on household needs, really taking care of brothers, sisters, siblings, you know, laundry, cooking, those sorts of things. And so early on, there wasn't the type of focus on education that would propel one to succeed, I would say. I fell behind in math very early on. I could say one of the last math classes I recall attending was 7th grade. And it was a class that was so packed that you had students sitting on the floor. Our books were owed. We had to share them. We weren't allowed to take them home, right? And so this is the math environment that I came from. So I would say that it took me many years to complete associate degrees. So just from that standpoint, right, I wouldn't be a success under 705 or 1705. And with that, math was one of the last courses that I took, again, because I had such an insecurity with math. I tried to enroll in a remedial class, didn't connect with that professor, tried to enroll in another remedial class, didn't connect with that professor, and then finally found a professor that was able to connect the concepts and help me gain the foundation necessary to take transfer-ready math courses. And I say that to say, had I not had the opportunity to take any remedial courses, if I were to be placed directly into transfer math, then I would not have had the GPA that I needed to get into UCLA. Would have definitely not have been able to go to the institution or a top tier institution of my choosing, because there were many top tier institutions that I was eventually able to get into, to be accepted to, really. And so the importance of maintaining, right, access to remedial classes really is a conversation about equity and inclusion, which are such buzzwords these days, right? But let's think about the assumption, thank you so much, Professor Judge, the assumption that all the students are at the level, right, to be able to get into those classes. No child left behind, right? We're hearing about so many people, just through what has been shared, who have been pressed on, right, who weren't necessarily at a math level that could help them succeed transfer math. And again, we're thinking about funding, right? What areas have the type of income level that is going to filter into the K through 12 system that's going to get those students on a positive foot. We had the comparison between LA Southwest and a comparison between, right, Pierce College. And I think the proof is in the pudding with the numbers that we saw, but also in the experiences. I myself also was employed at East Los Angeles College for 5 years in student support roles, including being a peer mentor to first-year students. My last role was the lead success coach for LA College Promise. And if you all are not familiar with LA College Promise, it takes in students who have never attended college before and helps them ensure that their first 2 years are paid. And so you have students going directly into that program who may be coming straight from high school, not necessarily a high school that has them ready for transfer-ready courses. So I've spoken to many students who were very candid with me about their thoughts on their ability to succeed in those transfer-ready courses. And to be quite blunt, they were not ready. I had students tell me that they were pressed through in high school, that they didn't feel that they had the math level necessary to succeed. So I just really press on how important it is to be able to have that that ability to have that self-exploration, to have that agency as a student to say, I am not prepared for this. I need a little time so that I have my best foot going forward so that I can go to whichever institution I want to transfer to, or if I don't want to transfer, right? I have the confidence of success that I gain through my agency to move on to whatever my next level is. And so that's what I would share with everyone.
Golden, thank you so much for your words. And so you graduated from UCLA?
Yes, thank you so much. So I started community college when I was 19. Pierce was my first school, stopped out after, didn't even finish the first semester. So when I came to ELAC, I had like a 1.36 GPA from that, but I had taken classes little by little, right? A class here and class there, thank you, Oranit, like her student, because I needed to focus on living. And bringing those GPAs together is what really helped me. But yeah, I graduated from UCLA, double major, African American Studies and Political Science, also while working at ELAC in student support role. So I'm very excited about that, yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate your words, and your lived experience are so important to this process. And thank you. Our next student.
I'd like to introduce Luis Bede, who is our ASU Secretary at East Los Angeles College. Take it away, Luis.
Thank you very much. First off, I'd like to say that I am very appreciative of having this platform to voice my opinion in front of a large audience. So to anyone tuning in through the live stream, thank you. My name is Luis Bede, and I am part of student government here at East Los Angeles College in the form of Associated Student Union Secretary. As a student leader, I feel inclined to speak on behalf of our student population and community. I am strongly opposed to Assembly Bill 1705 because the community needs non-transfer level courses to thrive and excel in any educational environment. Adding on to that, I believe it to be unnecessary and irrational to rush students into a one-year time frame. Just one moment. Sorry about that.
It's okay, you're good.
Although these courses might not offer transfer credits, the information obtained through these courses are the foundation of an educational hierarchy. A skyscraper is not able to stand if the foundation of the building is brittle and weak. Similarly, a student cannot succeed at the highest level if they lack the basic skills and knowledge in their respective field of study. Personally, back in March of 2020, when COVID forced us to transition to online coursework, I struggled to keep up. I'm a kinesthetic learner, and I didn't really like the online method. My grades began to take a toll, and I eventually dropped out. I found a 9-to-5 and worked there for about 17 months. It wasn't until August of 2021 that I decided to return and continue my education. As you can imagine, a 17-month layoff from school left me very rusty and out of practice. I lost most of the knowledge that I had previously learned and hardly retained any. If it weren't for non-transfer level math and English courses, I wouldn't have been able to refresh myself and would have been susceptible to fail in more advanced courses. I urge you not to pass AB 1705 because the resources you are removing are too valuable for the community not to have access to. Secondly, it seems like there is an urge to expedite the process of students being on campus. According to AB 1705, this bill would, among other things, require a community college district or community college to maximize the probability that students will enter and complete transfer level coursework in English and mathematics within a one-year time frame of their initial attempt in the discipline, and for a student with a declared academic goal that the transfer level coursework satisfies a requirement of the intended certificate or associate degree or requirement for transfer within the intended major within a one-year time frame of their initial attempt. All of this sounds great on paper, but in reality, if you want to rush students to the finish line. Some students work, some are parents, some are preoccupied with their personal lives and can't make education their top priority. With all due respect, a 1-year time frame sounds outrageous. There's no need to rush students to success, and much less by stripping them of valuable resources such as non-transfer level math and English. A student should be able to navigate through their academic goals without the looming presence of a college pressuring them to finish as fast as possible. Once again, it is imperative to keep non-transfer level courses, and equally as important, not to rush students to the finish. Something that really stuck out from Mr. Judge's presentation was it is more likely for a student to survive the Titanic than transfer level math. And he showed us the evidence and the statistics to prove that statement, and it is really mind-boggling to think that that's the case. But I, along with the support of many others, urge you to vote no on AB 1705. If you care about the students and the community, you will realize how harmful implementing this bill really is. AB 1705 would have a tremendous impact on the student population, but in a negative and toxic manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your important words. We really appreciate it, and your preparation. Right on, good job. And I hope you transfer. Where do you want to transfer to?
I'm looking to transfer to a Cal State, hopefully Cal State LA, but to stay local. But if I have to transfer somewhere far, hopefully right. I'm not opposed to that.
All right, you should think about UC Berkeley. I love Berkeley. As you can all see, this is a very, very complicated issue. But again, our committee is student focused. This is about the student, and it's about equity, and it's about conceptualizing a very, very complicated issue here. Like, this is unbelievable to me that we are debating about reading and writing and math. And just even as a Chicano scholar, I want to step back for a second and just think of the concept of even putting math and English in the same discussion. It is so illogical, right? In regards to, and then I really am glad you're able to focus in on the 1 year. Thank God they didn't make it up 6 months. Where are they getting this 1 year? It's like, it's so draconian. But real quick, I want to ask any of the panelists if you want to address any of the questions in the chat. Is there anything that you guys want to, what I wanted to say real quick is that we acknowledge that prior to AB 705, there was some students getting stuck. We acknowledge that, but you don't take away to create equity. That's one of the major points, And Golden, thank you so much for your words, your experience. And I want to also share that, thank you. I was at San Diego State, and I'm a working class Chicano from Oxnard, California, and I was a top student. But when I went to San Diego State, I had 2 years of good content, poor writing skills, good content, poor writing skills. And I made friends with people in EOPS, and the director of EOPS gave me a personal writing coach. So for 4 months, she taught me how to write introduction, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. A paragraph is one complete thought that segues into another complete thought. I still remember exactly how she taught me, and it took me through my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD. So I say that story is that this is complicated. And most importantly, Golden, what you were saying was to have the agency to be able to be 18, 19, 25 years old and say, you know what? I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at math. That is so difficult for our students. So again, this is about a dialogue. This is about student focused, and this is about the fight of public education. So any of my panelists, do you want to address any of the questions that are in the chat? Yeah, go ahead, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make clear the idea and the premise, right? When you go to the Chancellor's dashboard, sorry, I'm on our Chancellor's task force. That's why I keep saying that. But for AB 705, when you go to the State Chancellor's dashboard, remember the premise of what I presented, which is at transfer, at transfer. That does not include pre-transfer. That was the starting point. So what it does is it gives you an idea of what you can expect based on the only data we have, right? What would you see? And that was amongst the best students. What sometimes happens on social media and even here is people say, why don't you choose all, right? Which includes below transfer, right? 1 level, 2 level. They say, look at the success that you see there. Well, don't forget, those are the very courses that are being eliminated, right? You're eliminating those. So when you select all and you start to see success rates, don't forget, you're actually undermining your own argument. And so this is what I've pasted or posted on social media. I made some of these remarks in the chat. I think they're worth mentioning. But when you include all and you start seeing that success, don't forget, those are the very same courses you're talking about eliminating and that you think are not necessary. So remember, it starts at transfer for a reason, and that's the only data we have. So I just like to just reinforce that.
Thank you so much, Jenna. And you make a real important point, because a lot of, personally, my opposition, right? They're always talking about how data doesn't lie. Well, you know what? Data could be manipulated, but what I know doesn't lie is my lived experiences, right? And so my lived experience as a Chicano studies professor, getting 17 emails from students that state, Dr. Carrasco, I just took English, 110, and I failed it. I see that you have a lot of writing in your course. Will I be okay? And I just want to cry. Definitely you'll be okay. And this is going back to, some people call it decolonizing the classroom. Do you grade on content, or do you grade on misspellings, et cetera, et cetera? But anyways, thank you so much. Oranit, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I would like to, tack on to what Daniel said. So start at transfer, right? Everything is at transfer. So my question is, how about the majority of our students who need us to get there? They would like to get there too, some of them, and some of them just want to improve their living wages. But at the same time, if we don't give them the tools, is that equitable? That we limit their access to the tools that can lead them to achieving their goals. Thank you.
Cool. And I also wanted to add before, so I have a lot of English professors, and so one of my colleagues at Pierce, I told her, what's your bottom line? I have this, I'm going to be hosting, being the moderator, blah, blah, blah. And I loved it. She wrote, she put options, closing equity. You should be adding solutions, not taking away, And so I thought that was really powerful, because the other thing too, is that this is being implemented in different ways. And 1705 is just first AB 705 was unbelievable, right? And now 1705 is like, when I go back to, reading, writing, and math, right? This is a debate about reading, writing, and math. And so what is this, Jim Crow 2.0? This is deep. This is a deep issue in regards in society, who gets to have access to reading and writing and basic math. Like, this is an overarching, issue here. Obviously, it's technical. You can look at data. Daniel, your presentation was really amazing. I'm not a numbers person, because I was kind of like, okay, grasping the concepts. But, just in regards, to the concept of declining success, right? Those are real lives, real human beings. Natalina, go ahead. Natalina.
Okay, so we're going to try to get some of those Q&A questions.
Okay.
I think we're going to take turns between myself, Kelly, and Harlem, and anybody else that wants to read some of those questions. I guess this is for Daniel and Angela. Somebody's asking if there is any success rates in any of the LACCD campuses. I guess this is us. If there is any success rate, I guess somebody's looking for something positive. It's been miserable, right, you guys?
I think you're presenting. Let me mention this. Sometimes this comes up, and I even put it in the chat, right? And some of the criticism sometimes people have, they don't realize that, you know, in the LACCD district, in particular, I know at East, we have what's called support courses, S courses. Those are the courses that offer concurrent support, right? We don't call them concurrent courses, we call them S courses due to flexibility. We have embedded tutors in the district. We have SI coaches in our district. Okay, we have those things. We have walk-in tutoring. We even have math and non-credit math courses. I chaired that committee, created the courses myself, but they're like what's called modules. So the idea here is that we have provided all the support we can. There's a lot of variables. Some colleges have different issues, and some of them are administrative, you know, and I don't want to go into all that kind of dirty detail, but there are some differences. But I would never say that the colleges did not put a sincere effort, because I know they did. I've been working with them. The S courses that we're talking about, every college adopted because of the flexibility. Those who started with concurrent courses, we've seen problems with students even attending those things. And you say, why do we have those kind of problems? Well, because students work, they take care of children, they take care of parents. Sometimes they do all three. I worked, I was a part-time student, I was an evening student. I helped take care of the family as well. So I really understand this, this issue very intimately, you know? So I think this bill just doesn't really care about that. It's a one size fits all. And that's what's disturbing about all of this. So when I deal with people that say, I'm in favor of this, I have to ask, why? Why would you be in favor of taking away choice from people with all those variables? Because there's a lot of variables, even with the data. You know, if you say, why is there different success rates? We want to talk success rates, right? You got to factor in too, the demographics for local areas are different. The tests that are given could be different. The assessments could be different. So there's a lot of other variables. So it's kind of like when you have to talk about data to that degree and you have to argue and debate, I think it's over, because you could never really truly use the data in a way that is meaningful based on all of the variables, you know? So I could present the data and we could talk about that. But then, you know, when people say, what's good that's come out of this? You know what I think what's good that's come out of this is simply that if you want to give a student the choice to take a transfer level course because they feel they are ready, I'm not against that. Good luck. Good luck to you. Try it out. But if you need help and you're in that category of student where you say, I have to take care of parents, children, I got to work, I would like to see something meaningful there for you to help you. I don't want to cut you off. So I can't understand for 2 seconds why anyone would ever want to remove choice for students of color. Anyone in general.
Yeah, Daniel, thank you so much. And I think that's like a major point for us, to concept to think about. You know, why couldn't it just be like, okay, if you want to go into a transfer course, go ahead and take it, you know, and take down all the quote unquote barriers, right? Why do they have to pass a law to make other courses quote unquote illegal, or like you were talking about, Oranit, to dismantle reading? Like even at my school, all the basic skills class they have been eliminated. So Golden, go ahead. And then Paula.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that Daniel brought up the S courses, and it was also mentioned in the question and answer. And I just want to say that that's one of those things that are a Band-Aid that pacifies, right? So people say, well, they're doing the support courses. How many support courses are there? Does every class have the support course on offer? Is there flexibility in the support courses? So I can say firsthand, right, because my position in LA College Promise was assisting students in planning out their schedules as they best fit their own needs. And I had plenty of students who wanted to take a particular S course math class that fit into their time frame, and it was taught by a teacher that, for instance, a Professor Judge class gets taken like this, right? Word of mouth, ask a student, oh, take Professor Judge's class. Not to toot your horn here, but well known, right? Your name comes up all the time. And as the students are trying to get the course that best fits their needs by professor, by time frame, right? That S course might not be available. That support course might not be available. So we can't say that we're, and I'm not saying you in particular, I'm saying as a California Community College District, that we're going to be providing students additional support within the frame that's on offer if it's not really on offer. Further, again, is assuming that those students have the foundational understanding necessary to even take on the supplemental support. And so I think that's one of the major reasons why you can't simply remove all the remedial classes. Again, equity, it's not equitable for all the students. And you know, you can invite them to the table, but are they ready to eat, right? Inclusion, include them, give them the fork that they need to eat. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Paula?
Yes, I want to address a question and a comment in the chat. You know, there was a lot of exaggeration pre-AB 705 on too many students being placed in taking assessment tests and being placed in remedial classes. That was really exaggerated. What was coming out was that it was taking our students 6 years to make it through. Now, I've been working with our EOPS students for many years. They're the lowest income educationally disadvantaged students. And our students did not take 6 years to get their degree. If anything, it took 3 years, maybe 4 if they were, you know, limited English speaking. But it was very exaggerated that it was taking students forever to get out and get a degree. That is just simply not true. So, so I'm responding to that because I think I need to say that you know, the Chancellor's Office used false data to push AB 705. Nancy Shulak, I think, was one of the people that was quoted always as stating that it took students forever and that they were forced to take remedial courses, which was also not true. So I just want to say that.
And I want to add to your comment in regards to, again, I want to connect these dots, right, in regards to neoliberalism, the privatization of the community college, and the concept of success. What is success? So I have debated with colleagues on my campus. There was this one colleague and there was like, Tomas, do you know that it takes students at 4 years to get through Santa Barbara City College? And I'm like, yo, in my neighborhood, that's success. So what? If it takes 2, 3, you know, but my point is, you know, is that it's cultural. You know, we're in different situations where somebody can make it in 2 years. Well, that's fine. If it takes somebody 3 years, it should be okay also. But what I want to really amplify, and it's a whole different conversation, is you know, this whole thing of pitfalls. Oh, excuse me, I mean guided pathways, right? That was a good joke, y'all. But anyways, you know, this guided pathways is also very, very problematic and neoliberal. So I'll leave it at that. Oranit?
Oh, I think Paula's before me. Paula, you want to go ahead?
She just went.
I just did. Thank you. I just did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I am looking at a question in the Q&A box. And, you know, there's a question about what we would say to people who have said, and I quote, that you know, this is John Fox. I don't think he would mind if I say his name because his name's there. So John Fox said, on my own campus, people have said that my opposition to AB 1705 promotes a mixed mindset and assumes that some students cannot succeed in transfer level math and English. How do you think I should respond to this charge? I would say, if I were to answer the question, I would say community colleges are very diverse. Our student population is very diverse. Because of Title V, we don't have a floor. We don't have prerequisites. We don't have anything that would tell us whether or not the students, you know, are prepared for college level classes. And we serve all students. Doesn't matter, they only have to be 18 years old, right, to attend community colleges. And so I don't believe that there's an assumption there. I think what we do is say, if you're ready to take college, college level classes, we would support you any way we can. We want you to succeed, to achieve your goal, whatever you want to do. But if someone says, and a lot of them are students of color, and a lot of them are my students because they don't have the English language skills. They have their intellectual abilities, their experience, their perseverance, but they need the English language skills. And so for those students, we need to say, we will also give you what you need. And by saying that we give them what they need does not mean that we assume that they cannot succeed in transfer level classes. All we are saying is we will have these classes for them. They can, we will provide them access to achieving their goals in an equitable way. That's how I would respond to that question. Thank you, John, for asking it.
Catalina?
So I think I have another question. I think it's for Daniel. But I guess we all can answer this, right? It says, what else can you tell us about unsuccessful math students? Were they also struggle in other courses? Yes, they are. I can tell you that. Were they facing challenges outside of the classroom? Did they get access to other academic and non-academic supports? Daniel, before you answer that, let me put this into a context. I teach political science and women and gender studies. All of you that have taken political science 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, you know how much reading you have to do in those courses. And more, and my husband also teaches political science at Santa Monica College. We talk a lot about this, how the students are come less and less prepared for political science, and they flunking in great numbers. I know Oranit was talking about them canceling reading. So if you have to do a lot of reading, and I know a lot of them now, they have this Speechify. You guys, I tried the other day. I don't have no idea what the lady was talking about and what she was reading. I shut it off. I just wanted to see. I wanted to test it. I don't know if students know about this. It's a Speechify. You take a picture of your book and he reads it for you. And it goes so fast that you can understand what the hell she was saying. So we see more and more of them flunking out of the classes because they're not ready. I don't have any data to give you, but I have the data for my students. And I can tell you they're not succeeding in other classes that outside of math and English, and political science and history is 2 of those. Daniel, go ahead.
And I guess the question is,
are
they, what was the original question? I'm sorry.
Well, it was several parts, right? The first one is like, if what else can you tell us about the unsuccessful math students? Were they also struggling in other courses? And were they facing challenges outside of the classroom? Did they get access to other academic and non-academic support?
Well, I think I partly answered the access to the support question already, district-wide. Now, to say, did we collect data on how they do, in other courses specifically? From my memory, we haven't necessarily looked at that data, although I think that data is there to some degree. You might see success rates in different courses. Now, math and English are unique, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion. They're very unique. And I know this as a student. I know this as an instructor. They do take that time and energy. They do take that commitment. And the second you start to deviate from that to some degree, you can have a problem. Now, what I can offer you, in my opinion here, is the conversations I've had with students. Yes, they have issues in other classes. Specifically, if we talk about statistics, what I've been saying my whole career, the irony is if you really looked at the details of a statistics course, right? And you say, I think statistics is difficult and it's hard. Well, I hate math. Sometimes you hear that. It's not math that's the problem, because you get to use a calculator. You get to use technology. So the problems I face here is simply that it's language and process. So if a student has trouble with language in a statistics course, they're having problems with language in the other courses. Okay, so it's language and process. It's not even the mathematics. So it's kind of ironic. What you see now today, some of my time, as was mentioned, I used to have a sort of wait list of over 100 students years ago trying to add my math courses. Over 100 students looking to add. And I had a high success rate, right? This is why they were looking to add. So there was some clarity. There was some, passion involved with teaching. But today it's a lot different with AB 705. It's very different. I don't have the same success rates. I have to say that my throughput numbers have definitely declined since pre-AB 705 and now AB 705. And I scratch my head about the data when I see this throughput stuff. And I say, that's not happening in my case. Now, I have mentioned this to people. I'm a little bit suspicious of data. If you look at the bills say things like this. We want data-driven decisions. Well, those who control the data control the narrative. And working in education with publishers and data, I got to tell you, you got to take a very close look at the data and you will find issues. They're not including drops before census. Okay, this isn't scientific. From my understanding, this is not really peer-reviewed data. So I always have to say, why would you want that kind of data? Simply because he who controls the data controls the narrative. It's a slam dunk. So specifically to say, have I seen trouble with students? Yes, in all their classes. It's not just math. It's based on language. It's based on process. Don't have the success rates that I used to have. Not even close. I wrote a paper on what we can expect. We can expect 1 in 3. That was pre-COVID. With COVID and learning loss, I think we can expect, and this is a hypothesis. I know people say, hey, don't say these things. It's what we do for a living. It's a hypothesis. Educated guess. This is what I teach. We now have to go gather the data legitimately and verify it. So to say, do I have specific data as to what classes they were not successful in? What was their home life like? What kind of situations have they been dealing with? The answer is no, because there's a lot of variables here. And, to go in and try to gather that, we can try it. I think the district has done some of it, but it's a bit sketchy. But if you want to ask me what I've seen as a professional for over 27 years, I've definitely seen issues with students, a big difference. And that's coming from somebody who's a math instructor who's popular and positive and who believes in encouraging students. If I thought AB 1705 was a great bill, I would say it. I'd be the first one to say it, because what I see here is not good. What I know as a professional and what I see day in and day out, when you now have students that get zeros on their tests, when that never happened before. I didn't have that happen. You're getting a 0? It's heartbreaking. So, to suggest that we just have to look at more data to draw conclusions, I'm going to tell you something here. I don't think that's really necessary, personally. I think we have a good idea.
Thank you so much. Paula?
Yes, there's a very good question in the chat. What is MALDEF's Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund stance on AB 1705? And this is a very good question, because many right now they supported AB 705. I believe they're also supporting AB 1705. They have a MALDEF, ironically.
They are.
MALDEF ironically filed a class action lawsuit many years ago on the impact of placement and assessment on our Latino population. Now they have aligned themselves with Campaign for College Opportunity. So it's important to know which groups are supporting it. Campaign for College Opportunity is really the mouthpiece for the Chancellor's Office. They are funded by conservative groups also. So I think moving forward, it's going to be important to know who are we going to work with, align ourselves, or work on in terms of legislators so that we get more support. It seems that we in my opinion, there's a disconnect in our somehow really aggressively going after legislators. I think we used to do that a lot more in the past, but I think moving forward, hopefully at the end of this meeting, we're going to have some kind of a strategy on how we're going to deal with AB 1705.
I just wanted to add in regards to your statement, Paula, is that I want us all to think about this concept that the Cal State University system attempted to do something very, very similar in regards to, you know, taking away all these remedial, quote unquote, remedial classes. And it just devastated African Americans and Chicanos, and they stopped it, right? But the biggest difference between the Cal State University system and our system is that there is massive millions and millions of dollars. You mentioned it's like the NAACP being for, you know, discrimination. It's unbelievable that they're, you know, for this bill, or the other organization, I won't mention her or her organization because it's not worth it, that are just like the Hispanics of the world doing double backflips for, you know, for this bill, and simultaneously Chicanos and Chicanas being devastated, you know. And so going back, I wanted just real quick to go back to Daniel and just generally speaking. So Daniel, you could help me out. So my English colleagues use the concept of output. Since there's more output, quote unquote, there's more success. And so, but what they're not including are the failures, right? And you proved that, right? So thank you. I think it's really, really important because data, I'm not gonna use the word lie, but can be manipulated. And again, we need to really focus in on this concept. And I love that, you know, I love this concept of, it's Avery Gordon, the ghost of sociology, is if this is what they're telling us, what are they not telling us, right? You know, like Paula gave a good example, like Irwin didn't write this bill. You know, this bill is coming from someone else, right? With quote unquote expertise, and obviously using their expertise in the wrong way. But this is huge. And I'm glad we're able to unpack this on multiple layers, and just to really put out there, there's no one to buckle my shoe answer, but what we do know is that we need to maintain our mission statement, and anybody should learn how to be able to learn how to read and write and do math and create access to all students. Oranit, yes, go ahead, Oranit.
Oh, thank you so much, Thomas. I would like to discuss a comment made by Sarah Jones. And she said, we support so many students who will never transfer. We help them to move forward with their lives. We support them mentally, emotionally, intellectually, financially, and their skills to improve their lives. What happens to all these students? I think that's a great question. What happens to these students who don't want to transfer? Are we honoring them? Are we, including their data as success? I don't think that we should define success narrowly as just those who transfer. I think we need to honor all those working students who don't want to transfer, but need to improve their knowledge, their skills, upscale their skills, to improve their job situation, to improve their income, to support their families. And I would say there's got to be something that the state chancellor needs to do in terms of what happens to these students. How are they doing? Are they doing really well? Are they, they have achieved their goals? And how are they doing now, even though they don't transfer? Again, community colleges have, several missions. One of them is lifelong learning. And we cannot ignore these students who don't want to transfer because they cannot, or because they prefer to do something that would be more about CTE. If they're a welder, they don't need to transfer. If their goal is not to get a university degree, why should they? So again, I think we need to, in my opinion, we need to let the state chancellors know these students are also successful. They have their successful stories. Please include their data as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Oranit. And I really want to re-emphasize, Paula's been talking about this for a while in Ventura and Oxnard area. Is like, why are we only focusing on students that want to transfer? You know, there's a whole, the communities of, you know, Ventura County, there's people that literally just go to learn how to read and write, and we're excluding them, right? Or for whatever the reason, to improve themselves, you know, in their math, whether they're a realtor or what have you, you know? And so we're we're focusing only on people that want to go to the university, and it's affecting everybody else. And Dr. Lina? Yeah.
Okay, so I know there was a question in the chat before. Somebody asked if NAACP are aware of these numbers. And this is the part that is my opinion, okay? It's not FACC opinion. But NAACP to me has been very problematic, and I have to deal with them, God, on 2020 on a daily basis, I have to say. And I am basically very disappointed because it's a shadow of what it used to be. They have other agenda, and their agenda is supposed to be nonprofit. But to me, it's like if you get into bed with these major corporations, and one of them that funded college opportunity, I have to say it's Walmart. Okay, this is, go check them out. And I am working on something to expose what they stand for, because they don't stand for our students. Most of us could be doing something else. I tell everybody, I came to community college because I hated 4 years university. I was tired of writing grants, but I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach somebody. I wanted my students. And these big corporate mega million agencies that is trying to interfere in our education. And I've been trying to search that bill because, like you guys said, Irwin didn't write it, okay? And to me, it sounds like, I don't know if you all, because I teach political science, I teach about lobby on a daily basis. There is this nonprofit, they call themselves nonprofit. I like the way they describe themselves. Is the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC for short, ALEC. And they call themselves a nonprofit, conservative, state legislative, and private sector representatives. They draft bills and send them to the legislators. And it's almost like that spaghetti thing that you threw spaghetti in the ceiling and see which one sticks. And I think this is one of those bills. It was a spaghetti bill that they're passing. They wanted to see, they wanted to test it. And I'm sure that California has been that testing ground. And people say, oh yeah, it's student. I even cringe about that student choice, because that's what in K to 12, we have at the charter schools talk about student and parents' choice. And that means they want to take money from public education to fund private schools. So I have a problem with that. I'm a product of public school, and I'm going public school all the way. And I got my PhD in a public school. I'm back at UCLA for public school, and go public school, okay? So, but this is this idea of calling NAACP and find out what they're after. You guys remember Prop 15, right? I'm still not over it. On 2020, we're trying to get a tax for schools. NAACP opposed that. They coming to take grandma and grandpa's home, okay? This is the people that, if it's a tax that is going to help our students, is going to help finance the schools, why are you going around and tell them that they are going to take grandpa and grandma's school? Except if grandpa and grandma look like Disneyland, yes, we're going to go after you if you are Disneyland. We were not going after grandpa and grandma. So that's what I said. That's my opinion. I'm a political scientist and also very opinionated. Golden, you want to ask that question?
Real quick, Dr. Lina, I want to add to your statement just a second. I also want us to amplify and to focus in on, you know, again, we're talking about a huge, huge California community college system. It's huge, right? And again, as a Chicano activist, as a Chicano scholar, the way my mind works, you know, when all this happened, my natural reaction was like, really? Out of everything in this entire system, you're going to focus in on remedial education that's holding us back. You know what I mean? Not that K through 12 that is totally substandard in regards to African Americans and Chicanos and what they're producing, you know, but this is what we're going to focus in on. And it just goes back to those people that are just writing these bills that are part of these conservative tanks on how could we stop public education, you know. And just real quick, you know, all those charter schools, that's a perfect example of neoliberalism also.
Wendy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know our director of FACC, Evan Hawkins, said that there is 150 bills all about community college, you guys.
Wow.
They're coming for us.
Dang.
I don't remember exactly the number, but I think it was about over 100 bills that is there coming for us.
So if you look at legislation and you just even search for community college within quotes, usually there's somewhere between 150 and 200 bills annually that have to do with the community colleges. So there's many bills that don't even make it through. And some of those bills have to do with, say, an HR labor issue that's not particular, safety issue that's not particularly connected to curriculum. But yes, there's about 150 to 200 bills annually on the community colleges.
And when did this increase? Was this a major increase in the last few years or no?
That's a really good question. There's been an increase really over the last decade, but I would have to look at the specific numbers. I've been tracking it since about 2018, and it's been pretty consistent, 150 to 200.
And they've been all mainly conservative or progressive?
I don't know. That would be hard to tell because the ones that I sort of hyper focus on have to do with curriculum, and and all of those have to do with narrowing our community college mission and focusing on transfer.
Interesting.
Right. That's, I would say, what's the most common of those bills over the last 12 years have been focus on transfer and narrowing our mission.
Wow. Okay, Paula?
Yeah, so I'm looking at someone asking why is there so much support for 1705? Well, because the chancellor's office has millions of dollars to do an excellent marketing job. I mean, that they are all over the place. They have all kinds of staff and connections. They're working on the legislators. They have a lot of money to market. And if you look at their chancellor's website, that's what they're doing. They're marketing, and they have people that they send out to sell AB 1705. So I feel that we as faculty and community college people have not risen up to really fight this. I don't know how, I don't see our being active with legislators, really pulling them aside and speaking to them. I don't know how much of that is going on these days, but I just think I'm hoping that we lead with some kind of strategy today. But that's why, because the chancellor's office has control of the media.
I have one, Paula. At the end, I'm going to tell you guys, stick around. I have one.
Okay. Herlam, did you have a question, Herlam? Or did you want to add, Herlam?
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to touch on the same point in regards to, there's a question on why, what's the story on the other side? Why is there so much support for 1705? And I was going to say, I was going to point that question over to Wendy. Wendy's got a great presentation in regards to, in regards to this very question. So Wendy, did you want touch
put me on the spot?
Oh, I've heard you say that you're wonderful on this.
I mean, I think that, going back well over a decade, corporations have spent an enormous amount of effort, time, and money creating, a lot of special interest groups and AstroTurf organizations to convince our legislators that they have the answers. And I think not all faculty, but many of us have been asleep at the wheel or believing the marketing campaign. I like that, Paula. That's what it is. And what the end result is that we're moving more and more of our public services to the private space. We privatized our prisons, we privatized our healthcare. We're selling our, a Bureau of Land Management for energy, to rape the land for energy. I mean, it's happening in all areas of public government. And, how we stop it, I'm not sure. But I think awareness and unity in faculty, and then we need to start to tell this message and convince our administrators and our board of trustees and our students and get them to understand what's happening. But I think the push has been over the last decade to make us a transfer institution. We're really sort of back to the junior college model, get students in and out as fast as possible. They're cogs in the wheel of the corporate machine. We're not spending any money, time, and energy on our career education courses, which are such a wonderful way for students to be able to rise out of poverty and then still have access to higher education as they move along through their growth. So I'm worried. I'm terribly worried. And we're starting to see schools closing. You know what's happening with San
Francisco,
right? And it happened. It's happening in K-12 too. I mean, in K-12 it was the same policies. They just look a little different in K-12. So I think we need to wake up and we need to start talking about it. And I will give my pitch. This is a FACC event, and we need to consolidate our political power. And we have one lobbyist, FACC does. Our unions, we have 3 faculty unions. That gives us 2.5 more lobbyists in the Capitol. And then the other special interest groups have many, many lobbyists. And we need more. As faculty, we need more lobbyists. That's what we need. That's one of the key things we need. And how do we do that? We get more FACC members, and we make sure everybody's a member of the union, and we demand our unions stand up and help us. And we start to align our powerful resources as faculty and really to help take back the academy and get control of the system before all our schools close.
The student from ELAC, go ahead. It says Bede, I'm sorry.
Yes, so I just wanted to share my thoughts. Coming into this Zoom, I had a limited view as to what the implications for AB 1705 were. And after hearing the other panelists share their wonderful ideas, I actually didn't know that equity played a big factor in the opposition to this. So Hispanic and African-American students are suffering disproportionately. That is something that we also need to take into consideration. But also the idea that those who control the data control the narrative, and that data can be manipulated is something that I did not take into consideration prior to this Zoom. So that's something that I'm also going to be taking away from this. But yeah, AB 1705, it sounds like the bill was just as Ms. Golden said, you're inviting people to the table, but are they ready to eat? Which is really the biggest concern that I have. But anyway, I do have another meeting, so I just want to thank everyone from FACCC for giving me this opportunity to express my opinions, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good luck with your educational career. Thank you. You're awesome. Angela? Angela, are you there or no? Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I'm here. Sorry, trying to multitask. So I just want to say I've been watching these groups come to our board meetings at LACCD. They're well organized. They have a group, like a stable of students that they bring in, and they have their scripts and they read their scripts. They have their stats people. When they had the legislative hearing, they had about 10 or so students that they trotted in to support. We didn't have any students on our side. We were not allowed to speak remotely, and I must say they've outmaneuvered us and out-organized us. They're well funded, and it's time for us to fight back. This is the fight of our lives, and if we do not fight back successfully, our colleges will cease to exist as community colleges. So I think, the good thing is that I think that many administrators realize that these bills are going to absolutely destroy their colleges. They are afraid to speak up because these groups, like the Campaign for College Opportunity, threaten to sue, and they have sued certain districts. They threaten administrators that don't, go along with what they want, and then they give them awards if they do. I've got to give them credit because they're very effective at what they do. But it's time for us to fight back. And we are on the right side of this, and I think we will prevail ultimately, but we really have to get the word out. People need to understand what's at stake here. And our mission is at stake, and the future of this entire state is at stake, because our colleges drive the economic engine of California. And that's, ultimately what's at stake. So I think we need to raise awareness, and that will take care of this ultimately. But I have to give these people credit because I've been watching them, and they're good at what they do. And we have been outmaneuvered. And I think we are finally waking up to the realization to, what's at stake here. And it's just time for us to fight, because this will be absolutely devastating to our system. And I do agree with Natalina. It is a spaghetti bill. The stuff that's in there on the STEM program is completely unworkable. It might just be a red herring distraction, but we are working with our board at LACCD to try to get amendments in here. I'm not sure how successful we'll be. But again, this bill is going to destroy our system. And I think that's the intent. So again, I go back to my question, who benefits from this? Who benefits from this? Because I think that is the key question here.
Right on, Angela. And I go back, just real quick, and I go back to hegemony, when the elites convince the masses that the elites' interests are the masses' interests. And just real quick to give you an example, Angela, the other day, our president of Santa Barbara City College sent out an email to our entire campus that the college opportunity, gave us an award. They gave us an award. And I was just like, talking about, man, it's unbelievable, right? At the sophistication of manipulation, an award for the African-American students is some doubt. It was just amazing, right? And what's really interesting is that they're using civil rights, Black Power movement, Chicano Power movement rhetoric in the name of empowering. And Daniel was just so sophisticated, Daniel, with your one of my things in my classes is always substantiate your claim, right? And you sure did substantiate your claim with showing that this is like totally declining success, literally declining success and increasing, equity gaps, right? Natalina, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I know we're running a little bit short of time, and I want to leave some time for Harlem.
Solutions.
Yeah, wait, solutions. Sorry, Oranit, I jumped in front of you, but it's because it kind of related to what Angela was saying. You guys, I'm putting a petition together to collect petitions against this bill, and I wanted to do it statewide. I'm putting my other hat on. I am the political director for the Los Angeles College Faculty Guild. That's our union, 1521. And the petition is almost ready. We're going to launch it on Tuesday. We're going to get it approved by our executive board. And I've been working on it this whole week because when, like Angela said, when those students and the college campaign came to our board of trustee meeting, the LACCD, I got pissed. I'm like, who the hell are they and what are they doing here? And who got them here? So I'm in the mission, and I end up taking the summer off, and that's my mission. AB 1705 is my mission right now in the summer. And I got this petition. I'm going to put it in our website, aft1521.org. Can somebody write that somewhere? Or I'm going to ask President Wendy and Evan, if we can have that on the FACC board, you guys go sign it, because we are going to bring it. I'm going to organize a protest. I'm going to Irwin's office and drop it off. And plus, I got somebody at the LA Times that loves education. I'm going to get this college campaign. Like I told you guys, I'm on the mission. This is my solution, but I need everybody. I need all of you. I need you to work on all the colleges because we have to come and get them back. So you guys know I'm like, some people say my nickname is a bulldog, and I wear that with pride. And I'm gonna get them. You know, they mess with me, you are in big trouble. And I wanna give Harlem a chance to talk to all of you, the 117 of those that are here. Harlem, go ahead, please.
Yeah, what an enlightening conversation. I'm a big Daniel Judge fan now, everyone. My name's Harlem Lee. I'm the membership coordinator for FACC. And just to share a bit, this particular subject is very personal to me. Like many of your students, community college was my second chance. In 2008, I went back to school for the first time in over a decade as a non-traditional student. And I truly believe that if it wasn't for taking a few remedial classes, and of course, the amazing professors who taught them, like yourselves, I would have never gained the confidence to continue and succeed, eventually earning my bachelor's degree in political science, which ultimately led me here to, working at FACC. So if you're like me and you found this webinar illuminating and engaging and informative, you know, and want to be part of future events on policies like AB 1705, and more importantly, as Natalina mentioned, upcoming issues you as faculty will inevitably be facing, please consider joining FACC. Supporting FACC is one way of having your voice heard as system practitioners. And then you can join online. Just go to our webpage, facc.org. And for those of you wondering, membership is a nominal $21 per month for full-time and $7 per month for part-time. However, in the aggregate, we can begin to stem the tides of policies like AB 1705 that are detrimental to our students and our communities. So please, I encourage you, go to our website and sign up if you aren't a member already.
And just real quick, generally speaking, I just want to state that, you know, I really want to get, Natalina, we could like maybe, you know, some real concrete solutions. And I just want to state that, you know, 3 strikes you're out was a law, and it's not a law anymore. And so this AB 705, we need a class action lawsuit. We need to shake that chancellor's office up, and we need to fight for public education, because this is a racist educational public policy, according to me.
And it's very elitist.
Thank you. Anybody else want to end with closing comments? Or go ahead.
Oranit.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I would like to, you know, add on to what several people said about how we need to wake up. I would say it's hard to wake up. It's hard to do anything else with the workload that keeps being piled onto our plate. One initiative after another, one legislation, one piece of legislation after another. We cannot, it's just like we just have our heads buried in all those new things that have been piled to our plates. I am not making excuse, but I know many people want to be active, but they just keep being asked to do more and more and more things. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why we don't have as many people engaged. Our part-time faculty, who is the backbone of our community college system, are busy driving from one campus to another on Zoom. Now they take on more classes. And then during the pandemic, they lose some classes. And so we have the group power, manpower, women power, but we have been, you know, basically overwhelmed by things, and that we were demanded to do, and I would say that's almost like a conspiracy thing. And I would also say this: there's a question in the chat about ESL students, second language high school grads that are coming to high school at Hancock College. What would a professor tell the students who will likely, according to her, have 50% of them fail? And I would say, please, 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 my students, ESL students, are busy with dealing with the war situations with their family. They are You know, they don't have the time, they don't have the language, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the cultural background, they don't know they can make their voices heard. So I am here to speak for them. And I think we need to make sure that we make it clear that ESL students, and most of our students are refugees and immigrants. They are not international students. And so they need to, legislators need to know ESL students are effective in every way, whether it's math, whether it's ESL, whether it's English, that are in AB 1705 and AB 705. They're affected in every way. Please remember to make sure that we consider their needs and their access, their equitable access to success, to their goals. Thank you.
So it is almost 12 o'clock. I wanted to thank everybody for being here. I hope this was productive. Anybody else wanna, I wanna thank all the panelists. Thank you so much for taking a Friday to come and speak to us on the matters of the heart. Not the brain, but the heart, I think, is the matters of the heart. And I really appreciate this conversation. I hope we can keep it going, because as you see, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. And so as some of us age out and graduate to retirement, we need young blood to keep this fight going, because they're never going to stop coming for us. As long as there is money in public education, they come in to take it away in the name of student success. Anybody else wants to say concluding words?
I just want to say that we need to organize. We need to focus,
organize.
and we need to be strategic. And we are winning. We will win. And so good seeing you, Wendy. Good seeing everybody. And I think the power of humanity this is about public education. This is about democracy. This is about our children. This is about our communities. And California Community College needs to keep on going and educating and changing people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.